The New York Knicks must sign Cam Reddish long term. Ever since Cam got a bigger opportunity to play in New York, he's been showing some flashes of how talented he actually is. And he's also fit in with the New York Knicks as a roster very nicely. But quickly before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionative NBA content. And if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic.
Cam Reddish was drafted with the number 10 overall selection in the 2019 NBA draft. And coming into the NBA, Cam Reddish was seen as one of the most talented players in that year's draft that included players like Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, and John Morant. But the reason why Cam went all the way down at the number 10 spot was due to the fact in college with his one season with Duke, he didn't necessarily have the best season, but on the flip side, the reason why he went as high as he did at the number 10 spot, because coming out of high school, he was seen as a top 3 level talent. So clearly coming into the NBA, a bunch of NBA teams knew that Cam Reddish was one of the most talented players coming into that year's draft. There were just some question marks, and typically when you have question marks, it pushes you down in the draft. But once getting into the NBA and playing for the Atlanta Hawks, Cam Reddish certainly showed his capabilities and how talented he actually was, but the biggest issue with Cam in Atlanta is he just wasn't all that consistent. And towards the tail end of his career with the Atlanta Hawks, he actually lost some minutes because the Hawks had so many front court players, and he eventually got traded to the New York Knicks right before the NBA trade deadline this season. And early on in his New York Knicks career, Cam was dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury that held him out a few games, but then after a few games, once he was available to play for the Knicks, head coach Tom Thibodeau was refusing to play Cam due to the fact that he was saying that Cam needs to earn his spot, which of course makes sense, but at the same time, Cam Reddish was certainly one of the better players that they had in terms of talent level, and certainly a lot of Knicks fans would like to see Cam get some playing time out there and see what he could actually do. But then eventually, due to some injuries to guys like RJ Barrett and Quentin Grimes, and also due to the fact that Tom Thibodeau was loosening up a little bit, Cam Reddish finally started to get some minutes out there in the court. And at the very beginning, he wasn't playing many minutes, but as he started playing more, his minutes started to increase a little bit until it got to the point where we're at currently, where he's averaging anywhere around 18 to 25 minutes per game. Now, of course, we would like to see those minutes increase for sure. I would like to see Cam play at least 28 minutes, but of course, that's up to head coach Tom Thibodeau, and we'll see what happens with that going forward. But when you actually look at the statistics that Cam has been putting up early on in his Knicks career, nothing really jumps out to you on the stat sheet besides one game against the LA Clippers recently where he put up 17 points on 4 of 7 shooting. Of course, that was a very good game for him. But of course, besides that, nothing special. But the real question is, why do I personally think the Knicks should sign Cam Reddish long term, especially due to the fact that in Atlanta, he hasn't really necessarily shown anything consistent, and early on in his Knicks career, he hasn't necessarily done anything at all. So there's a few different reasons for why. The first reason that I wanted to touch upon is something that I mentioned before in the video, which is the talent level that he possesses. I think it's pretty clear to a lot of people watching Cam Reddish play out there, especially on certain moves, that this guy is so talented. Of course, Cam came into the NBA, and especially coming out of high school, known as one of the better three-point shooters, and in the NBA, he is shooting a pretty high percentage from that range. Of course, Cam has the ability to catch and shoot from that three-point range, and just does a fantastic job at spreading the floor for whatever team that he plays for. And of course, we all know in the new age NBA, floor spacers are very, very important to an NBA team. But besides just having the ability to catch and shoot from that three-point range, Cam is very special in the sense that he also has the ability to create for himself at a pretty decent level as well. Of course, from that three-point range, he can cross over into a three-point jump shot, sidestep, step back. Also has a pretty decent mid-range jump shot as well, especially a pull-up mid-range jump shot. He also has a very nice ability to drive all the way to the basket, and with that crazy wingspan that he possesses, he has a great ability to finish around whatever defenders in the paint, either with some nice floaters, some awkward hook shots, or just finishing straight up at the basket with some nice layups. Of course, he also has the ability to poster a decent amount of players, not necessarily due to the fact that he's super athletic, but more so due to the fact that he has a crazy wingspan on him. And of course, there's certain aspects of Cam's offensive game that I would like to see him improve, especially his passing and playmaking ability. But in my opinion, what what makes Cam so special offensively is the fact that he's able to create for himself at a pretty high level, as well as space the floor very effectively for other guys like RJ Barrett and Julius Randle. And not to mention that his defense is also very good as well. Cam clearly has a nice ability to play on-ball defense with that crazy wingspan, as well as having a nice ability to get those poke steals in the lane and just reading passing lanes pretty effectively. And although Cam didn't necessarily show all that much once getting into the NBA, I'm still very excited about the talent level that he possesses and the potential that he has going forward. And the next factor that I wanted to touch upon is how well Cam fits in with basically every player in the NBA. And what I mean by this is, let's just say for the sake of the video that Cam does turn into a star going forward long term, and maybe eventually one player that's a free agent would want to join up with Cam in whatever destination he's on, or maybe currently on the team that he's playing on with the Knicks, he stays with them long term, turns into a star next to a guy in RJ Barrett, and both of them turn into stars. The beauty about Cam is, of course, he's going to have the capability to score for himself and isolate himself, but also has the ability to spread the floor very effectively, as I mentioned before. So playing with a guy, let's just say for the sake of the video, RJ Barrett, and when RJ Barrett needs to cook and drive all the way to the basket, Cam isn't necessarily going to clog up the paint like some other players may be, and would just fit in with basically every other star that he could potentially team up with if he does turn into that type of player long term. And this is a real issue that we're starting to see a lot more as of late. We see maybe 2 stars team up or 3 stars team up, and maybe on paper they're a very talented team, but once they actually get on the court, the 2 main stars or 3 main stars just don't fit together whatsoever. Maybe it's due to the fact that one of the players or both of the players can't shoot, maybe it's due to some other reasons and they just don't fit well together. And perfect examples of this, at least as of late, was Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. The fact that Ben couldn't shoot whatsoever kind of just clogged up the paint for a guy like Joel and made Joel's life a lot more difficult than it really had to be. Another example is Russell Westbrook and LeBron James. Of course, Westbrook can't shoot, and it kind of makes LeBron's life a lot more difficult because now whatever player's guarding Russ would just clog the paint. And of course, if Russ is just used as a spot-up shooter, he's completely ineffective, so there's a weird situation in LA with that. And honestly, there's just been a bunch of different examples of this over the years, but a guy like Cam, in my opinion, would basically fit with every single player in the league. And also another reason that would definitely benefit Cam Reddish's case is the fact that there's been a ton of different NBA players and NBA legends in the past that started their careers off very slowly, but after maybe 4 or 5, maybe even 6 seasons for some players, they finally started to figure it out and turn into the legends that they are today. So of course, I think the Knicks should look to sign Cam long term. A contract that you could probably expect Cam to get would be anywhere from $15 to $20 million per season, and I think if the Knicks were able to sign Cam to maybe a 2, 3, or maybe even a 4-year contract in that range, I think that's certainly something I would be happy with. Now of course, from the Knicks perspective, they would rather get Cam closer to that $15 million per year range, or maybe even less, but I think the range that Cam is going to go for, as I said, is anywhere from 15 to 20 million per year. But we'll see what happens going forward. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the Knicks should look to sign Cam Reddish long term, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic. Hope you can't